and welcome to the A4Q Global Testing Summit. I am delighted to now welcome Andreas Günther, Director Consulting at the IT testing company Tricentis and also member of the Austrian Testing Board. In his presentation, he will show you how to modernize testing in 8 steps. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. We are really happy to answer them. And now I want to hand over to Andreas, and I wish you a very good time during this presentation.
Thank you very much, Eva, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. I have the pleasure to present the approach to modernize testing in 8 steps. So you might ask yourself, why is this relevant at all? Well, we have drawn back upon several surveys from DevOps Survey 2020, the Dynatrace Global CIO Report, and Gartner. And so what we hear is that more than 60% of the panelists said that faster and higher quality deployments drive their DevOps initiatives. And even more striking, 81% of the US CIOs say it is too difficult to identify the relationship between IT performance and business outcomes. And well, after all, IT is there to support the business. And then Gartner said that by 2022, which is actually now, organizations with diverse IT business collaborations will deliver business outcomes 25% faster than their competitors. So IT is absolutely key. So if you look at the magic triangle, we see that everybody wants to increase speed, reduce risk, and also reduce cost. Well, that's of course an issue because, as you know, if you have the magic triangle, you can choose 2, and the third one results automatically, unless you manage to improve the process performance overall. And this is what we're looking at today. So this is an excerpt from the World Quality Report 2021. And we see that the key aspects and the top priorities are the business assurance to contribute to business growth and business outcomes, and also custodian of quality. They want to detect software defects before go live. And overall, the digital happiness. So the end user satisfaction and outcome and customer experience are key. So let's have a look at how we want to tackle these challenges. So we have modeled an approach in 8 steps, which I'm going to show to you today. And that starts with a vision. Then it's followed by the plan. Then, of course, we need to build the testing approach. It needs to be established. Once it has been established, it can be scaled across the organization. And of course, you want to see the outcome, so it needs to be measured. And once that has been done, we can continue to innovate. And of course, we need to share. That means whatever we do, whenever we achieve a result, an outcome, we want to let others know what we have achieved, so that they become aware of the benefit of what we're doing. So first of all, let's have a look at the vision. The vision is the overall baseline for your plan. And what are the requirements for a vision? A vision should be short, clear, and inspiring. And it needs to involve your stakeholders. And you would be amazed how many organizations do not have a clear vision which meets those 3 simple criteria. Let's just show a few visions from selected companies. So one, my own company, Tricentis. We strive to be the leader in software testing with the most innovative testing products that enable our customers to deliver high-quality software. So, yes, Tricentis is the company for testing software. Then let's have a look at another very successful company, Salesforce. We are committed to a sustainable future for all. Well, that's very generic. And now, another company, I don't have to explain that, it's NASA. We reach for new heights and reveal the unknown for the benefit of humankind. So you can make your own suggestion or your own evaluation. what kind of vision you like, and what should be the vision, or what is the vision of your company. Do you even know what the vision of your company is? If not, go out and ask inside your organization. Okay, once you have defined your vision based on these 3 criteria, you can go ahead and define your strategy. So what does that mean? You have to identify the right people you want to involve. Then you define your test strategy, you choose the operating model, and you build a business case to really show the benefit of what you're doing. So, of course, when you identify the right people, you need to know who are the right people, and how do you attract and keep these people happy? Well, nowadays, attracting talent is a key factor to success, and it's very difficult to get the right people into your organization. And in order to get them, you also need to outline a career path. And well, that's where the ISTQB can also come into place. So the certifications provided by the ISTQB, and which can be certified by our certification partners, they actually provide the benefit for your employees, and that's something they can show out. And you can also show out to your employees that your testers, your members of your organization are certified, which also shows an image of quality and an image of your organization after all. Then you need to define your strategy and your process. So, for example, if you are into the agile world and you want to be modern, you want to be quick, then you need to embrace continuous testing, because you want to have short release cycles. So you need to have continuous testing to enable those short release cycles. And you need to identify the right tools you need. That means you need to find tools to calculate the return on investment, evaluate tools, and you also need to communicate the importance of your investments. And this is where the business value roadmap, which we can also provide to our customers, comes into place. Well, after all, we see that there are different organization models or operating models used in testing. So we see that we have decentralized model. That means testing is run in different departments, and there is no overarching testing entity which controls that everything fits together. That's suitable for smaller organizations, perhaps, and where you have independent entities and you don't have a lot of dependency between the different departments. And you see that continuous testing may be implemented in one team, and maybe less implemented in another team, and the third team might again implement it, and the organization within the teams may be different as well. Another model is a centralized model. That means you have a centralized test center for your entire organization, and you have the test architects, the automation engineers, and the automation specialists within the centralized organization. And they are split down into teams. The advantage is that you have a unified standard, you have unified procedures, unified methods. The disadvantage is you are not that flexible, and if you have to serve a huge organization, it may be difficult to have the right business know-how within the centralized team. And of course, it is easy to implement continuous testing within the test center because it's all from one hand. But still, this overhead might be a threat, and collaboration is also much more difficult between the different functional departments. This is why many organizations started implementing a hybrid model. So that means you have a kind of enterprise enablement team, and this enterprise enablement team fosters the continuous testing. And there we have the different teams in the different functional departments, which have the business know-how, but which are closely interacting with the centralized, with the enterprise enablement team, and thus they can use the benefits and the synergies of a unified testing organization combined with the advantages of the business know-how in the local teams. And you are, of course, much more flexible because you can draw upon the testers more easily than if they were in the centralized organization. Okay, next, let's have a look at the next step after that. You need, if you have decided your organization, you need to build a team. And, well, a team will be successful if the individuals are motivated. So, how do you do about that? First of all, we recommend to start with a pilot program, then build an enterprise enablement team to roll it out, and then to train the organization to make sure that the spirit of this testing team is spread across the organization. So if you want to start a pilot team, you need to find the right place to start with. You need to find the right product, find the right team, the right project. And there are different reasons or different aspects how you choose such a pilot team. It may be based on savings, available resources, or the chances to succeed, or the quick wins. So if you want to set up a pilot, you want this pilot to be successful. So you better look for an organization or a team which is eager to act as a pilot and is eager to embrace the change which goes along with this new organization. And this pilot team should act as a lighthouse project, and the team members should act as role models and early adopters, so that they can later on be used as an example when you are about rolling it out to the organization. So rolling out to the organization needs enablement. It needs an enterprise enablement team. That means a team built of test architects and engineers. And this enablement team needs to orchestrate the decision making. Because if you want to have a continuous testing platform, if you want to integrate and automate your organization, then you should have unified testing tools, and the infrastructure should also be unified, or at least it should be set up in a way that it can easily interoperate. And when doing that, you also need to gather and propagate best practices. So this gathering and propagating best practices is a continuous activity that isn't completed with the pilot teams. When you go out and roll it out to the enterprise, you will gather a whole lot of new experiences. You will fail in some places, but that's okay. It's okay to fail if you fail fast, and if you learn from the failures and use it to improve the process for the next team, for the next organization. And once you have reached a certain level of stability, then you also need to train the organization. That means you need to train the organization on the strategy, which needs to be defined and clearly agreed. And you need to balance the need for agility and the enterprise aspect of end-to-end testing. So this is why the hybrid organization is a good approach, because that helps you to balance the agility and the enterprise aspect of continuous testing. Okay, in order to test, you need to have some infrastructure. So this testing infrastructure is the technical infrastructure as such. You also need to have a service catalog, and we will come to that in a moment. And then again, you have to share best practices. You can't share enough or too much best practices. The more you share, the better the outcome. So if you set up the testing infrastructure, you need to deploy applications on top of the existing infrastructure. So you need to think about automation. You need to think about virtualization. You need to think about test management and test data management. And all that needs to integrate into the existing development and deployment tools. So you want to have a flawless testing organization, and you don't want to have a lot of interfaces which are hindering the continuous testing across the organization. You want to make sure that your organization is really acting as one efficient organization. And in order to do that, it makes sense to define and standardize tasks, so that you know when it comes to testing what tasks can be offered, which tasks can be offered by the central team and the enterprise enablement team, which tasks can be offered by the independent local teams, and these tasks can also put into packages. So when a project needs some testing, so they can just draw upon the predefined packages, because they don't have to reinvent the wheel again and again, because testing is comprised of a certain set of activities, and if you put them into predefined packages, it's much easier for the projects or the organizations to consume them and to request them. And when you progress in rolling that out and running projects based on this approach, then you should again and again share the best practices and the learnings, because you want new projects and new organizations and new departments to also jump onto this train, and to make sure that everybody is pulling the rope in the same direction, so that your organization becomes super fast in development and deployment. So this is how a tool chain could look like. So you have your development team, and this development team needs some unit testing, next level system testing, system integration testing, end-to-end testing, user acceptance testing, production. So this is the typical test levels you need in order to go live. And when you do continuous deployment, when you want to be agile, you want to make sure that these different test levels do not take so long. You need to be quick. You need to be real fast. And this is where the Tricentis platform offers a whole set of tools for the different levels of testing, so that each department and for each testing role you can pick the right piece of the tool chain which suits their needs. So developers certainly have completely different understanding of what a test tool should look like than a business tester. So a developer wants to have a rather technical tool. They can program, they can tweak as much as they like, and a business person and who does some business acceptance testing, user acceptance testing, they do not want to deal with any kind of programming. They just want to be able to put their user stories and their requirements in a human-friendly manner into the tool, so that they don't have to deal with any kind of programming or a lot of configuration. And this is why the Tricentis platform offers quite a different set of tools which operate together very well. And but still, it's an open platform. That means the Tricentis platform has quite a different set of tools, but it's not required to use all of those tools. And the approach of modernized testing in 8 steps is even independent from the Tricentis tools. Our tools are designed to align with the approach and to cover the needs of the different stakeholders. But it's also possible to do that with other tools. But then the integration might not be that seamless. But that's for you to decide. And we want to make sure that we have a full testing lifecycle in the organization. That means test cases, test plans, test data, and artifacts can be reused across the organization on different test levels and for different test purposes. So again, reusability is key. And you also want to have some real-time analytics. That means you want to have an overview of where your testing is at, what the quality of your application under test is. And this is not just about how many test cases are passed or failed. You also want to have some information about the risk coverage of your testing. So if you know that 500 out of 600 test cases are passed, is this good or bad? I don't know, I cannot tell. But if you map that down to the requirements and you see which requirements are covered and which requirements are not covered, and what is the risk of the different requirements, then this gives you a much more valuable insight into the actual quality of your application. Okay, as I just mentioned, the risk analysis, so this is all about traceability. You don't want to see a number of test cases. You want to be able to trace it back to requirements and to the risk to be covered. So this is what the business needs. The business wants testing to reduce risk. And as you roll out your test strategy across the organization, you also want to make sure that your teams become more and more autonomous. You don't want one team to be dependent on another, because if that's the case, then it will slow you down. So you want to onboard new teams, you want to enable teams, and you want to streamline the quality. So when you onboard new teams, you need to prioritize. You need to see, okay, where can a new testing team provide the most impact and provide the most value for the business. And of course, this onboarding routine should also be standardized. And here again, the certification pattern which ISTQB provides can also help a lot. So if you include certifications based on the ISTQB curriculum into your onboarding requirements, then you can make sure that you have a standardized skill set of your testers, which you can rely on. And you don't have to explain that to the testers again and again. Then you will continue to onboard new projects and applications into your testing chain again and again. And so that may be either by assigning teams of the enterprise enablement team on short or long term, or you may also have a kind of SWAT team to jump into the most critical issues or areas of your applications. Then you need to enable the new teams beyond what certifications are, what your organizational requirements are. And it's best if the enterprise enablement team also does this training for the different testing teams. And you can also build communities of practice within your organization or across organizations where you share experience and knowledge. And that's very valuable. And to my perception, that's a huge benefit of test organizations. Also, the local chapters of the ISTQB often provide local communities which enable testers to get together and exchange on their experience. And you also want to streamline quality to ensure that the testing quality is established across the organization. So when you scale that, you need to make sure that that the scaling makes you more efficient and does not slow you down. So if you manage to model the test cases based on the business scenarios and the risk coverage, then you can have a much higher risk coverage from 45%, which we see with customers who are just at the beginning of the journey, to over 90% with customers who are further down the way with their testing journey. And what we also see a lot in organizations, that there is a lot of test case redundancy, if you're able to track back the risk coverage contribution of each test case, you may be able to reduce the test case by up to 75%. So you have much fewer test cases, but probably even a higher risk coverage, which is a great benefit for your efficiency. Then if you have the service catalogs set out, you can implement testing for new projects much faster, because you can just pull the service catalog out of the drawer and you can execute according to this catalog. And this, of course, leads to up to 50% higher productivity. You maximize reusability, and the time and effort to create test cases is reduced by approximately 50%. And if you follow these steps, then you may even achieve up to and beyond 90% automation rate. especially if you manage to partner with the enterprise enablement team and you manage that you have a structured and coordinated approach throughout your organization. And these are numbers which we have taken from actual customer projects, and these are the average numbers we see. So what we see when organizations have enterprise enablement team versus they don't have them. So automated CI chain without enterprise enablement team, 70%, with enterprise enablement team, 38%. I'm not going to read all the numbers to you, but just digest the numbers and you see that in all important aspects of testing, the enterprise enablement team leads to a great improvement, 2x to 3x and sometimes even higher. So it's definitely worth embracing this approach. And looking at the companies, we see that there is pretty even spread between those which use a centralized model, decentralized model, and hybrid model. But we see the hybrid model is getting bigger. Okay, next thing which we also need to talk about is when you do all these testing improvements, you want to make sure that these improvements are measurable. It doesn't help if you just do the improvements and you cannot tell what the benefit is. You want to be able to justify the business case which you have designed at the beginning. So you need to understand the business risk and impact. You need to measure your product, your process, and your organization. And you need to be contextual. That means you need to be beyond just numbers. You need to be able to explain what those numbers mean. So it's all about providing the right feedback to the right stakeholder at the right time. And in order to do that, you need to prioritize. So it's much better to have contextual metrics like requirements coverage or user experience than just numbers, percentage of test cases executed. That doesn't really tell a lot. But if you can tell how much business risk you have covered, and probably even quantify what the business risk is, which you have eliminated by finding defects in the early stage, that's where the music is, and that's where it becomes interesting for the upper management. So in the end, assessment of business risk is key for a software release decision. So you also need to know where your team stands. So there are different levels or aspects which you want to have a look at. Like you want to have a look at the roles in your team. You want to see what test coverage you achieve. You want to see how resilient your system is. You want to see how much service virtualization you have. That means how independent can you run your tests or you run your organization, even if certain systems are not available at a given time. So if you want to run end-to-end testing, quite often you might run into a situation where single systems may not be available in the test environment at the required time. And this is where service virtualization comes into place. If you are able to use service virtualization to kind of stop those missing systems, then you can still execute your tests and you can still get the value out of your testing. As opposed to being dependent on all systems, then you can be quite sure that one or two systems out of the entire complex system landscape may not be available at any given time, and which may prevent you from doing the end-to-end testing. So looking at this graphics, if you analyze your team and your organization with these different areas, you can show a picture of where you are. So for example, in this organization, the roles of the team members are pretty well defined. So we have different checkpoints which we can check for each of these areas and see where the organization stands. And we also offer that to our clients to do such an assessment to help you understand your positioning and to help you identify the areas where it's most efficient to invest into. So let me reiterate this quote I had at the beginning. Understanding of business risk is a critical factor in DevOps success. And IDC said IT and application development move from a cost center to a value creator. And metrics will allow engineering leaders to measure the efficiency of software projects. And that's the important thing. Try to move away from just being a cost center by being able to provide the efficiency and the benefit that you as a testing organization provide to your organization. And transparency is also key. That means everybody within the organization needs to be able to review the metrics. If the metrics are transparent, if they are clear, if they are understandable, and if they're easily accessible, then that creates trust for your testing organization. And of course, once you have established your organization, you're not at the end. You want to make sure that that you keep pace with development, with latest trends in the technology and latest trends in the testing world. So it's great that you're here and that you're attending this conference, because I'm quite sure that you have already seen and you will see some great speeches, some great talks about latest trends in testing. And I strongly encourage you to think about how you can apply whatever you have seen in these sessions in your day-to-day life and your day-to-day work. So when it comes to innovation, one aspect is key, of course. That's automation, and you need to create a culture of innovation, and you need to reflect and improve. So if you hold back automation, if you have a low degree of automation, that means your testers are very, very busy executing test cases again and again in regression testing. And that's a boring activity. And that actually is a big enemy of innovation. So if you manage to automate to a high degree, of course, first of all, you need to have your test cases sorted out. Then you free your testers to be innovative, to use their brain to think and to be creative. And this will boost your quality even further. So this culture of innovation, of course, this is a culture which needs to be embraced. That means an agile model is very helpful. And the agile model also means that whenever you have an idea, encourage your team members to implement the idea, to try the idea, and probably also to fail, and to fail fast. So, and if an idea fails, then you know that you can do something better. And let me cite Thomas Alva Edison, who has said that he has never failed. He has, you might know that he has done hundreds and hundreds of experiments to find the right matter to use for the light bulbs. And he said he never failed, but he found hundreds of options which did not work. And that's the spirit which you need to foster. Try new things, innovate, fail fast, and embrace this this spirit of entrepreneurship. And then, of course, you need to listen, you need to iterate, and you need to innovate. And when you want to make sure that that you are being heard in the organization, then tell your story. So accelerate the change management and buy-in. So if you tell within the organization what you have done, if you let others participate in the success, and if you show how you have reached this success, then you also build credibility with others. And you will see that others are following you. So if you can show that you have reached 93% in the of reduction in the raw execution time by automating your tests, well, that's an impressive number, and that's what your management wants to see, and that's what will encourage your management to further fund your projects and to further fund your testing. And here are just some other metrics which we see from clients which they have achieved when they embraced a modern testing approach. So these are impressive numbers to share, and I'm convinced that if you follow this approach of modernizing testing and you manage to implement the spirit of modern testing, of innovation in your organization, then these are the numbers which you are going to see in your organization. And then just repeat it. And if you want to learn more about that, please visit our website. So we have a whole lot of material on there. And I'm also very happy to engage in discussions with you now or at a later point of time.
Thank you so much, Andreas, for your presentation. It was really interesting. We have two questions. Actually, the first question is like, when is the point to decide that the modernization in testing is necessary? So what are the indicators?
Well, the interesting thing is if you look at this journey, you can ask yourself how much of these steps you have already implemented. So do you have metrics? Do you have qualitative metrics? Do you talk about what your testing organization does? And can you present the value of your testing organization to the business in an understandable matter, in an understandable way? If you can answer all those questions, then you're quite far down the road. But well, you are never done with this journey. So in other words, if you haven't begun, the best time to start is yesterday. The second best time to start is now.
Okay, great. It's a really nice answer. Second question, like, how do you encourage your team, your co-workers for this change, for this modernization? So what can you do to motivate people just to join you at this journey?
Okay, so we implement quite a lot of programs. So one of the programs which we use is innovation weeks, where we invite everybody in our organization to join teams to bring in topics they want to work on, and they are completely free as to which topic they work on, and they can try to develop something within this week, and they can present it at the end of the week. And then there is a committee which decides which of these initiatives will be followed through, and they are being celebrated to a high extent. And for the time I've been with Tricentis, I have not seen many cases where people are being blamed for having done something wrong. Instead, I always try to encourage my team. So when we find out that something has gone wrong, and then I really say that's an excellent example, and that's an excellent learning opportunity, which we should share with the team. That we have seen, okay, this way has been tried, it didn't work, and this is also an invitation to the entire team to come up with other ideas which we can try again.
Okay, so it's also about like the culture of how to make mistakes.
Absolutely. So mistakes And errors are always a great learning opportunity. And you need to see them as a learning opportunity. And you must not be ashamed of making errors or mistakes. The worst mistakes are those which you become aware of, but you don't talk about. So if you become aware of an issue, and if you have run into an error, if you have made a mistake, and you talk about it openly and freely, that's what's needed in the organization, because that helps us improve, helps us prevent such errors in the future, and it also encourages innovation, because if you don't try innovation, if you don't innovate, well, the risk of making mistakes is much lower. And we don't want you to avoid risk by not being innovative. So take risks, take defined risks, and make sure you fail fast.
So that's a really nice final sentence. Thank you very much, Andreas, for your presentation. And yeah, leave a comment at our social channels, dear audience, like talk to us, connect on LinkedIn, and we are really happy to hear from you. Thank you so much, Andreas, and have a great evening, have a great time, and see you soon.
Thank you very much. And to all of you out there, have an excellent day ahead, evening, or good night.